court we go. Now we're in the courtroom where the military wife murder trial is playing out in Kentucky. And we have a really key witness on the stand right now. He's a guard psychologist. And he's testifying about the defendant's mental state, the chain of events that he says, everything that led up to what he says was Jordan Henning experiencing an extreme emotional disturbance. Let's go back in.
Manipulative behavior, anything of that nature.
And what you reviewed would be inconsistent with what led us to be here. Is that a fair statement?
That would be fair.
Okay. Now, you also reviewed the security videos.
Yes, sir.
That the jury has seen. Mm-hmm. And I will also inform you that there's been testimony here that that night, he was in a rage and he couldn't even see what was in front of him. Would that be consistent with an extreme emotional disturbance?
It would. It would.
Okay. And why is that?
Well, I think just by definition, just that state of being, so enraged, inflamed, that it does impact your rational thinking, your judgment, and so you're not, processing and working in a normal way cognitively.
Are there any other documents that you reviewed to prepare for your testimony today?
Again, those military statements, military records, some of the trainings in there, I thought were very, and again, being in the military myself, I can attest to some of the training and how it is intended to work reflexively almost. So in his records, you'll see some training for reflexive fire training, right? And a lot of weapons training. And what that is the way the Army trains or the way the military trains is that they want it to be second nature. They want it to be something you don't have to think about, something that you just do. They train for what they used to call muscle memory, so that when you're in a high stress situation, in a place where you can't think rationally, that kicks in, right?
Well, let me use this example, Doctor, and I'll let you continue. But if I'm in the National Training Center, you're familiar with that?
Yes, sir.
I call it combat school. Mm-hmm. Or if you're in actual combat, mm-hmm. and there's somebody over there shooting at me, I don't really have time to consider, well, I wonder what kind of guy this is. How many children he has.
For sure.
Do you have time to do that?
No.
And this is where the reflexive.
Well, yes. So that's where the reflexive comes in. Again, it's training for automaticity or reflexivity, so that you are responding. Your body's responding, and again, it's muscle memory. It's like pulling on more procedural memory versus more declarative memory, where you're doing a procedure, you're doing an overlearned act. And for example, in weapons training, you learn, you do hours and hours of drills and things like that, so that so if you have a weapons malfunction, you perform a certain task, you perform sports, right? Which is how you clear a weapons malfunction, and you do it over and over and over again to the point where when something happens, you just kind of go through it and you're not actually thinking about it in a declarative way, in a way that you can describe. You're just kind of procedurally doing it. Kind of like if you're driving a route that you've driven over and over again. Your mind can wander, and you're still going on that route. So you don't have to think about it as much, or riding a bike.
The triggering events that you discussed, well, strike that. Are you aware that Jordan Henning has been at the National Training Center or Combat School 9 separate times?
Yes, I've been told that.
And as you know, the fact that he had been so many times, well, first of all, is that a lot?
It's a lot.
Okay. The fact that he has been so many times, that heightened his reflexivity, as you call it, especially when you perceive a threat.
Yeah. I think the more you do it, the more reflexive it becomes, the more ingrained, the more muscle memory kind of kicks in.
Doctor, again, after we've gone over these documents, tell us again what your opinion was, please.
My opinion was that on that day that Mr. Henning experienced this extreme emotional disturbance, just based on, again, not a flashpoint, but just kind of a gradual building of stressors and triggers, again, from the family stuff that was going on, the alcohol, possible testosterone, the altercation in his backyard, and eventually it led to that disturbance.
Okay. And, Doctor, the materials that you reviewed and you relied on, are those the usual and customary materials that people in your profession rely on?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Before cross-examination, counsel.
All right, he's talking about what happens with military training, the high stress environment, muscle memory. Bottom line, this psychologist is saying that Jordan Henning was experiencing an extreme emotional disturbance at the time that he shot and killed his wife, Ashley. Let's talk about it with our law enforcement analyst guest, Sonny Slaughter. Sonny, good morning to you. You're watching along. Your thoughts on this doctor's testimony, please.
Good morning, Julie. Good morning, Cordes. I think this is really good testimony, and I think it is spot on because he has something, and that this particular psychologist has something that we don't have access to, which is really critical when you think about law enforcement and military. He had access to the records and all of the records and all of the training, which is why he can tie it in a very real and complex and nuanced way around these complex things that we are seeing, these behaviors and actions. Now, I used to be an investigator for the United States Navy on the non-appropriated side. And when you take all of this information in, it then begins to explain the behaviors and reactions, because I was appalled, and I kind of put it in a post earlier about the load, the reload, the chambers. It was very disturbing and very heinous behavior. This doctor is now explaining what the reactions and the behavior was, and I think the defense is now defending the client in the manner in which they should be, as opposed to what I was thinking was kind of obscure in nature to the eye, based on what we were seeing and not based on what we knew and now know, if that makes sense.
No, it does, Sonny, thank you. And what we're going to see next when we come back after the break, defense counsel is going to clarify with this psychologist the difference between insanity, where somebody doesn't know right from wrong at the time, and extreme emotional disturbance, where they become so overwhelmed by their emotions. It's like their emotions get the best of their better judgment.